How are you? How was your lockdown?
Hello. Well, thank you. Very, very well. Yeah, trying to keep busy with some personal little projects on the side, and yeah, and hopefully doing all right with my film stuff as well. So yeah,
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's really important at the moment, like keeping films going, keeping production going, keeping the momentum because lockdown's been a bit difficult for film at the moment. But yeah, we just got to keep going.
definitely, definitely. I think anything, even personal stuff that we can be working on. I've been doing a little experimental piece actually, which is just videos that I've compiled over lockdown, which hopefully I'll be releasing soon on Vimeo, which is quite exciting.
That's
Um,
amazing.
what's that? Sorry.
I said that's amazing. No, that's really
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. It's just having just graduated, and this is my graduate film, Patina.
Yeah,
Having just graduated from that, and kind of moving into the world post COVID or during COVID at least, and and just feeling a little bit displaced from uni and that kind of
yeah.
thing. So it's kind of just all of that all in one big bundle. So that's what I've been working on at the moment, at least, and trying to keep my time with that.
Well, you just mentioned it. Patina is an East Anglian Best nominated film. Could you just give us a brief overview about what it's about?
So it's basically a film which looks at aging, I guess in a contemporary way, which tries to see how beauty and age are affected, often I think aging is something which a lot of people don't even consider as something which is a good thing. That it's only ever seen as a burden. Most of our society talks about aging in a really, really bad and negative light. And this film is trying to kind of reframe that a little bit, show perhaps how it can be seen in a better way, and more importantly, in a kind of comparison with the natural world, and and kind of a pattern, I think, which is the big theme of the film.
I know you mentioned beauty there. I found there's a few segments where people talk about the sort of the beauty aspect of aging, and I found that like really powerful when they were talking about when they were younger, they felt like they were only valued for their beauty, and as they age, they realized that it's so much more. Like that was such a powerful theme in the film.
That's the thing. I think a lot of the thing I was most interested in whilst making the film was this idea that aging it's changed over time. Obviously, these people were younger once. They've gone through what many young people these days kind of experience in terms of body image, that kind of stuff. And I think it's super interesting how that tracks through time, especially into older age. And one of the big things in the film is also there's a couple in it, and
Yeah,
we're kind of umming and ahhing whether we should just do individual characters or whether we should introduce a couple as well. And I think that is a big part for me as well, is the sense that growing older with someone, obviously they've been together since they're very young, and beauty changes over time anyway. So that was something super interesting for me, where how do these people over time with one another kind of does it change at all how they feel about each other, or does it become stronger? And Val and Jerry were their names. They're the couple
oh,
in the
Val
film.
and Jerry.
Yeah, proper great. That's a good pair of names.
That's like
Um,
perfect, like Carl and Ellie almost show up. Like that is
yeah, from Bond.
amazing.
They got that impression definitely. They were super nice. They even made us dinner and stuff, and the whole crew were
Oh,
filmed. Yeah, it's great.
that's so
Um,
lovely.
but they were great because it was just it was nice that they bounced off each other as well, and they had a super ecological approach, because that's one of the other big themes
Yeah.
with the film. So because the reason we even came into contact with them is through Extinction Rebellion, because they're protesting for it.
Oh my god.
And my cinematographer approached them and said, I'd like to take a picture, and then that's how eventually we got them into the film. So yeah, we interviewed them, and they were really great because they had so many great kind of angles on aging, which I'd never even thought about. One of the big takeaways for me, something they said, was that laughing at age is a good thing in a lot of ways. And sometimes that, as much as yes, you know, aging can be quite a sad thing for some people. It's actually, in some ways, you have to just laugh at it in a lot of ways. Sometimes they'll say they'll bend down for something, and it's just whether or not they laugh about can they even get up again. But no, that isn't that. In terms of the film itself, for me, I think it's trying to get at those little kind of snippets of aging which people just don't look at. It's perhaps the funny side sometimes, but more so the beautiful side of it. This idea that because society is telling us so often, anti-aging creams, that kind of thing, and you have to stay young. And there was a great report that when I first kind of started looking at the film and getting ideas for it, at least, it's by the Royal Society for Public Health, and I was getting statistics which are like, I think it's 58% of people feel like as they grow older they will get less attractive, which I think is this
Yeah.
kind of incredible. So it was looking at this idea of body image with older generations, which hasn't really been looked at before. Often with kind of age and film, it's kind of they focus on something like maybe a disease,
Yeah.
or which are all really really important films to be made for sure. But I thought with this one we needed to put older people in the limelight, not a condition or something like that. We needed to put people there and let them speak for themselves about how they feel about beauty and how they feel about body image and perhaps the natural world feeding into that as well. So yeah.
That's absolutely, like, I think it's really powerful when you do the shots of their eyes, because eyes never age. Eyes are the same things you have from the day you're born to the day you die. And I think, like, that one of the characters in the film, they speak about how when you grow old people sort of dread it, but you celebrate it. There are shots of your hands and their skin, and just you shouldn't dread being old, because you're going to be the same person, just with more funny stories, like they say, like Al and Jerry. I think that's a really brilliant outlook. And you use this visual of the mirror, which is so poignant against the East Anglian filmscape, where they're holding this mirror against their face, like the earth and them, they are one. I think it's a really powerful visual. Can you sort of talk about that visual a bit more?
Definitely. When I really love abstract visuals, so as soon as we were kind of conceiving the film, I thought I want to have something stand out a little bit there, which will kind of draw attention to itself and thread the whole thing together a little bit. Because one of the problems that we found was that we have lots of individual characters and it needed to be really brought together.
Yeah.
And the mirrors for me is what did that. So the main kind of metaphor behind it is the first one's just reflecting the natural world, and hopefully we're going to talk about exactly what that means in a bit more detail in terms of the patterns and that kind of thing, and landscapes especially. But yeah, so a reflection of the natural world. Also the sense that in society, older people are invisible in a lot of ways. And actually, we didn't include it in the film necessarily, but a lot of the interviewees were saying that's how they felt in a lot of ways. They felt like, they just weren't looked at anymore. Now they've gotten older, they felt like no one cared about them. So I think that's another big thing as well, the fact that it was covering their faces. They had almost no identity really,
Yeah.
especially as you've got the eye pieces in the film, which really is so personal, so much identity there. And then just to completely remove that with the mirrors is one of the big kind of striking contrasts we went for. And the frame itself, I guess this idea of being put in a box, having that idea of aging, beauty, this kind of stuff, being told that you should feel bad for looking older or for being older, or that kind of thing. So that was another huge one as well. It was literally putting these people inside of a box, which hopefully through the film we were trying to kind of break that frame in a lot of ways. So that was the big kind of metaphor with the mirrors.
I think that amazing. It really like struck a chord with me and Shelby, the editor of Filmies. We were both talking about it. We're both like, this is so powerful. Against, it was the one on the beach, especially for me, that just felt really grand, and all those metaphors. Like, it's so perfect for the film. But like you were saying, the film also has a real big theme about the natural world, and intercut between the discussions, there are beautifully shot clips, I have to say.
Yeah, Rebecca, the cinematographer, did an amazing job because
they are just gorgeous.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, they were shot on a macro lens, which is I think 180 mil. She shot them on, so it's super, really, really close up. So a lot of them kind of seem, especially the first shot of the film, which I really love. They seem like this kind of grand mountainscape, but really it was just some rocks on a beach, and it was, and the fact that we didn't get any camera shake, that kind of thing, was super, super skilled on Becky's part. So
that slow pan at the beginning feels almost like the beginning of like Lord of the Rings or something. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, in terms of the natural theme of it, landscape was a huge, huge part of, the ideas going into the film, and hopefully what came out of it as well. Because the initial kind of idea as it started brewing in my mind, I knew I wanted to look at body image and older people, and I really very strongly believe in, in the natural world and ecology as a kind of a healing thing and a thing that needs to be protected. So like I wanted to match the two, and landscapes was the thing that did it really. I wanted to create this idea that basically we can have natural landscapes and we can have human landscapes. So that's why in a lot of ways a lot of it's so close up with the eyes of hand kind of thing. It was by going so close up to the people, to the interviewees, we created these landscapes of their bodies basically. And we used life models in the film as well, actually, which is kind of the montage sequence at the end.
Yeah.
And we got really, really close up to them and created kind of this merging of the two landscapes, basically, to kind of show these patterns, to show the similarities, because the real key thing of the film, it isn't that aging is natural, which of course it is, but that isn't the message of the film. The message is kind of, we see in natural landscapes which are age old, which are, you know, millennia old, we see beauty, you know, we gaze at it and they are to us beautiful, perhaps more than anything, you know. And it feels weird that with age we just don't look at people in the same way, and that is the biggest kind of question the film is trying to kind of butt up against. It's, why do we see nature in all of its beauty in its old age, and yet not people? So that is kind of the big tie together with the natural world and the landscapes and the patterns more than anything, to really show that connection and say, look, we need to be aligning our eyes with the natural world. We need to be saying, why do we not see people in this way? Why can't we just understand it, they are beautiful, you know, in old age, and old age is not a bad thing, and growing older is not a bad thing. It just needs to be appreciated in a certain way.
That's like, it's so beautiful. The whole message of like beauty is in everything. You have to look for it, and you can't just shun, like, just because society says, you know, anti-aging just for men, got to get your hair like nice and dark, like you have to embrace it and enjoy it and just love everything. And like, you've spoken about Extinction Rebellion and you have this real passion for the natural sort of world. Would you think the film is sort of a message about protecting the natural world as well, like looking after not only yourself but also the natural world?
Definitely, without a doubt. You know, the first and last shot of the film is natural. You know,
Yeah.
it's of nature, and that was a very deliberate decision. And I knew instantly that that's what we had to do, because, and it's kind of this idea that we start with nature, we end with nature. You know, it precedes us, and it will be there after us. You know, in a lot of ways, and you know, having that really strong passion about it, feeling that, you know, this is something we need to be protecting. For me, that was just a way of saying that, you know, it will always be here, and we need to start appreciating the beauty of it, you know. And it's kind of a response in a lot of ways to this, to eco anxiety. There are a lot of films that try to kind of, I don't know, propel this idea that we should really be frightened and fearing, you know, ecological collapse, which obviously is a huge thing, and I find myself scared by it sometimes. And we're trying to take a more kind of slow approach to it with this film, to try and really bring out maybe parts of the natural world that people haven't seen because they're so minute, you know. And that was the other way of doing it, with the macro lens, you
Yeah.
know, really showing the details of the natural world, things that people wouldn't usually see necessarily, or at least maybe appreciating it from a different angle, because only then, if people care about something, then they want to protect it. And if they can see the beauty in something, they want to protect it. So it had a nice kind of double edge there, where we could not only tie it into the whole thing to do with aging, but hopefully change how people see the natural world as well, which itself is aging, obviously, and, you know, it's age old. So yeah, that was a huge part of it.
It's a really like polemic film. You've got so many like important messages in there. um Sort of, especially when you were saying that, like the final shot, I found that shot really powerful, because it's sort of looking up at the tree, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's always going to be before us, it's more powerful, like we are sort of below it. I thought it was a really clever shot. It was really well done.
Thank you. To be fair, that day when we shot that, it was chucking it down with rain, and we had to keep wiping the lens, because obviously it's literally looking straight up.
Yeah.
So the rain's pouring down onto the lens. So we had to make sure we had to keep wiping it, and we just about got, I think, about a minute and something length that was pretty much usable, where there weren't water droplets on the lens and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was when we were scouting, recceing the locations, and I don't know why, but ever since I walked in Woodland, I always like to look up at just the canopy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I did the same with one of the locations, and I saw that shot, and I was like, wow, this is something incredible, because it's something called, I think it's canopy shyness, and it's where the same species of tree just give each other a little bit of space to
Yeah.
allow for kind of growth together, basically. And I think that in itself is a beautiful metaphor. The
Yeah.
fact that you have all of these trees working together, you know, to, you know, kind of flourish kind of thing, I think it's great. But more than anything, I really thought it looked like the capillaries of, you know, or like a veins, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very biological, which again I thought was just one of the biggest patterns that I've spotted. and comparisons between people and the natural world, and it just happened to work so well. And I knew as soon as we got that shot, I knew instantly that had to be the last one of the film. That had to be the takeaway
Yeah.
one, where you just get this kind of moment at the end where you can just kind of contemplate what you've seen, have a nice drawn out section where it's nice and slow, the trees are moving, and you get to see that pattern properly in the flesh.
It's definitely one of those films, because I hadn't seen the visual of the artery, like the veins, and it's one of those films like, oh, I need to watch it again. I need to see like what's hidden, because there's so many things hidden beneath it. And this kind of leads me to my next question. You're sort of looking at scouting locations. What made you want to choose East Anglia over any other place in the country? Like, what made like that landscape so perfect for your film?
It's just, I think the natural landscapes we have, we're lucky that we have a bit of everything, a little bit of coastal areas, we have woodland, we have grasslands, that kind of thing. So I think having those different spots is just essential, really, for trying to show kind of the breadth of the natural world. You need a little bit of everything. And I think we're really lucky with, like I said, the coastlines and the scenery here. And East Anglia, I've lived in East Anglia all my life, so I think trying to kind of get across that, the fact that it is a beautiful place to live and it's a beautiful part of the world that often people might not consider in that way, and trying to show that the beauty of the natural world that we have here, in the East, I think is super important.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm originally from Portsmouth. I moved here for uni, and I'd never even really heard of Norwich before I moved.
Yeah.
And it is just stunning. Like all of East Anglia, I've become such a rambler now. I just like walking on the beach and finding another trail. Like it's so lovely. Everything about it. It's just gorgeous.
It's good.
I've got a few more questions for you. So everyone in the film says some really valuable sort of lessons in this. Was there one in particular that you felt really hit home and that you now sort of apply?
100%. I'm not so necessarily I apply it yet, because I think it might be one of those things that really takes its time over a lifespan to set in. But Val and Jerry, again, one of the things they said was about modeling, and they say it in the film, and I think it's a really important message. But they talk about modeling, and not in the sense of obviously, fat catwalks and fashion, yeah, Vogue in it, but in the sense of like trying to be a role model for younger people, trying to be that person in your old age or as you grow older to really to kind of set the social norm in a lot of ways of how older people should be appreciated and seen in a lot of ways. So, because I think one of the big problems is younger people in general, and there's another fact actually from that survey that brought this film in, which was that I think 18 to 34-year-olds, a quarter of them think that an older person can never be thought of as attractive, ever. Yeah. So, and that's it starts off with younger people, and we start by thinking about age in such a negative way that we then go on to live by those negative kind of thoughts. So I think modeling, in the sense that older people really saying and being kind of very positive about age, and perhaps even seeing it in a more beautiful way, I think is a really important thing, not just for the people around you who are the similar age, but also for younger people as well, to kind of show them this is how we should be thinking about it, this is how we should be living, because at the end of the day, the world has an aging population, more and more people. I think that's the nice thing about this film, is that it would always be relevant to different people, different age groups, perhaps, because it's such a universal thing, and for me, it was one of the biggest things where, so many people experience this kind of self-consciousness about age, and I just couldn't understand why in a lot of ways. And that's what I wanted to find out more about, how is age perceived amongst these people, and hopefully through the film that we've done that.
I really think it has. I think your film really highlights the beauty of aging, and sort of every line, every freckle has a story to tell. And I think especially because we live in this world of sort of elevated beauty, where the beauty that we see on like Instagram, on films, it's not real. Like all these like the actors, everyone's saying like, look, don't believe that it's true. And I think it's so important for young people, middle-aged people, old people to understand that you are you and you should embrace it and love it. And I think that's such an important message, and you are implying it because you've made a brilliant film and you're modeling for so many people. I think it's really fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh no, I'm speaking the truth. It's amazing. I mean, you're an award nominated film, so it must be good.
It does feel good.
Yeah. Did you say this was your student film?
Yes, this is my final year graduate film. So I made it with an amazing crew. I have to mention them, of people, the Molly, my producer, and Rebecca, my cinematographer, and especially Emily, my editor as well. We all of us put in super hard work to get this to where it is. I mean, the edit itself was crazy because as a documentary, you never really know where it's going to go. And from the start, I knew I wanted it to be this kind of more slow-paced film. I'm actually, having watched it back, I almost wish it was slower, which
Yeah.
might be a bit of a shock. But yeah, I always wanted to be the slow-paced film because with the edit especially, we really struggled because there was only so much length of clips that we were going to have because some of it was going to be in slow motion, believe it or not. So we were hoping to have it a little even more drawn out, but for whatever reason, that wasn't going to be possible and it didn't work. So we only had a certain length of clips, so we were stretching out those seconds where we could, and I think it really works in the film, to draw attention to the fact that the fact of aging, the fact of time passing, and that's what we want. If you're bored during the shots, that's almost what I want in some way, because
Yeah.
I want you to start thinking, why is this so long? Well, and of the fact of time passing in a lot of ways, and of the fact of aging, I think. So that's why we kind of had those drawn out sections. So yeah, the crew did an amazing job to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. It's almost like a form of meditation, like giving you a breather to really think about what you're listening to. It's really cleverly done. Like, fabulous team. Well done, everyone. Like, it's
Thank
really
you.
good.
I must mention as well about the score, because Ethan will kill me if not, but Ethan Roberts is the composer. And you speak about meditation, and that was one of the big things we were talking about as well, between me and the composer, because it was meant to be this kind of place of kind of peacefulness, and really trying to have a bit of time to think. So I think the score helped massively with that.
Oh, it was gorgeous. I'm a sucker for film score, and I thought it was beautiful. It was sort of twinkly and relaxed. It was lovely. It was just
Thank you.
amazing.
He'll love to hear
I
that.
hope he's going to be really happy with that. What advice would you give to a young person in East Anglia, sort of, you've lived here all your life, who's interested in getting into the industry? Do you have any sort of tips, tricks, sort of a powerful like speech? I don't
Oh
know.
my God, powerful speech, maybe not. Um, I think probably for me, the best thing to do is just to do your research. And well, first of all, have an interest, obviously.
Yeah.
Have an interest in the medium, especially independent film as well, because chances are that is the easiest way in. And I really love independent film. It's my favorite form because I think there's so much art to it. So I think have an interest, go to festivals as well, like Norwich Film Festival, which we're very lucky to be nominated for. It's such a brilliant festival. There's so many good films, so go and watch them. It's next to nothing, and this year especially, it doesn't even have to be in person because it's all online. So have an interest in that kind of stuff, and know what you like, I guess, and go outside your comfort zone for maybe stuff you might not like. But yeah, I think do your research. For me, it's research. I mean, Screen Skills has a great kind of role breakdowns. If you really want to work in industry, it's not quite sure what role, then they've got all the kind of role outlines on there. So that'd be great. And look in the credits as well. So, just see what people are working on and see who they are, and then just get in contact with those people because, it's by making those connections and by trying to kind of talk to people about their work and hopefully through Q&As like this, build an interest in that you're going to get into the industry. And yeah, that'd be my biggest piece of advice, I think.
That was really, really brilliant because there are so many. It takes a village to make a film, and
Mm-hmm.
you've, especially just in this, before I even asked, you were really like sort of powered to speak about everyone in the film and made sure they got their time in the limelight. And I think that's really wonderful. And I think, yeah, if you're interested, look at everything. I think what you said is fantastic. There's something for everyone in film, and you really should sort of dip your toe in the water and see what's out there.
Definitely.
And my final question for you, what are you sort of
Okay.
hoping for the industry in East Anglia to look like in like post COVID world? We're still living in it now, lockdown, zooming, but what do you
I
think
know.
it will look like afterwards? Fingers crossed.
Well, that's a great question. I think,
Quite a difficult one.
yeah, I hope it thrives. I really hope that it gets the recognition that it deserves. It's such a brilliant region, and I think we haven't had all of the recognition over the years for film as perhaps we need really in a lot of ways. Like there's been a few things shot here recently, especially so yesterday, obviously, and David Copperfield as well was last year.
Yeah.
So I think there's been a few kind of bigger films kind of around here, but I just really hope that film festivals can have in-person, meetings again, and really seeking, because it's so much easier to connect. And I think that's a great environment is a film festival, where
Yeah.
we get a load of people who are super passionate about the same things, who've watched the same films and can just have a chat about it. I think it's great. So I'm hopeful that we'll have film festivals back and up and running where they should be. Local cinemas, like Abbeygate Cinema in Bury St Edmunds, and Albury Cinema is another great one as well. Local cinemas that start, putting on their screenings again. And yeah, just trying to bring more to this part of the country that I think would be a really great, kind of epicenter, if we can make it that for creativity. So yeah.
Well, that's an amazing note to end on. Thank you so much for this. It's been really fascinating to sort of learn more about like the inner workings of the film and sort of see more metaphors that I haven't noticed. I'm just going to go and watch the film again and see if I can see anything else that I didn't see. But thank you so much for your time. It was absolutely amazing.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Oh, thank you.